Hello and welcome back to the Age of Empires 3 podcast from the Age of Some Bros YouTube channel. I'm your host, SerSharkDad. Glad to be back with our infrequent podcast recording, but I know some of you have been missing this, and so we have returned. And so this one, we are kind of wondering exactly what we're going to be doing for the podcast going forward, since World's Edge has unfortunately decided to stop supporting Age of Empires 3. And I've already given my thoughts on that in a previous discussion podcast that we have. If you have not listened to that, feel free to go ahead and listen to that now. And I think my disappointment is still there. However, you know, there is a discussion to be had about where we're going over in the future. So I'm actually joined here today by Mr. V, who has been a guest before. It's always good to have him on. And Madonna, who has also been a guest and is a member of the team here at Age of Some Bros. And so we're going to be discussing a little bit about not just the future of Age of Empires 3, but mainly this idea of an ESOC patch. So Mr. V, you're the one who kind of approached me on this topic and wanted to do something like this. So if you want to go ahead and give a little bit of history as to exactly what an ESOC patch is, when we talk about that, to give a context of what we mean.
So I saw this conversation come up right after the success of the ESOC Spring Championships, which did really, really well in terms of numbers. I think the finals was like we were up to 1,000 viewers on Twitch, and we were getting shout outs from other, AoE communities. And of course, World's Edge saw that and did nothing. So I think after that, one of the top players, Frontline, he posted on, the kind of fan forums where all the competitive stuff used to happen, ESO. He was talking about a second ESOC patch, and I was just amazed by like how long that forum went. It was like 4 pages of just straight debate, and it was like every entry was multiple paragraphs, and I was looking at, it had new players, it had guys that I hadn't heard from in years, guys like Maido, who's like an old school, legend. But ESOC patch was basically before DE. It was the fan balance that all kind of competitive games were played on. It's where all tournaments were hosted, and it's where all of the top players played their games. You didn't really see anybody in the top 100, maybe not that, maybe like top 50. They wouldn't really play on just standard RE. They were always on ESOC patch, whereas all the guys like me who were lower level, we just we played on RE because that was the easiest place to get games. And I mean, they went strong basically until DE came in, and that kind of blew up ESOC patch. But now there's talks about making another one, and honestly, I don't know if it's a good idea or not. So I just wanted to get other people's thoughts on it.
Yeah, to that end, Madonna, you want to go ahead, and I see you put the link in the chat, so I'm going to have this up, and I'm going to listen to these no names discuss about a potential ESOC patch, but go ahead and give me your thoughts.
Just to be clear, like from my understanding, the release of DE, like the entire balance, it was based on the original ESOC patch. So we have a precedent of them of like a ESOC patch being relevant to the game. For a good reason, because it was a really good patch, and so that's why they based the initial balancing on it. So I think it's really fun to see the discussion about this starting up again, especially if we're not actually getting a real patch. But I mean, I saw some of the people in the forum thread there, and what people say about the patch is like they're worried about it's gonna break the quick search, and that's like the main argument that I've seen and that I have personally against an ESOC patch, because it would split the community. And I don't think that's good for the overall health of the game, because I'm one of those players who still play regularly. Like I do most of my time on this game in the 1v1 multiplayer ladder. So like I'm I do experience all of the unbalanced things that this meta has provided, but I still keep coming back like almost every day if I can. And I don't have trouble finding games, but if we start splitting up the community, that's one thing I would be worried about, even though there's so many things that I would like to nerf or buff or just change in general that I think are desperately needed. But yeah, that's some of my thoughts on like how we talk about this.
I actually have a technical question, if I may. Is can you play on ranked if there was an ESOC patch?
No, the thing is the game, it notices when you have like a mod, and unless it's like a cosmetic mod, it prevents you from like queuing up in the ranked queue. So you can still do lobbies, obviously, but
right.
you can't lobby with somebody who has like another version of the game, which you have if you have modded it,
So this is my that's kind of my issue then, because so let's say I'm Mr. 2K Elo, okay, and I am and I'm like a relatively well-known person in the AoE 3 community. I make build orders, whatever, I talk to people, and I decide to start streaming, right? But I know that I need to be training for a an ESOC tournament, whatever, that's going to be on EP2. And I'd rather play on EP2, right? Just from my perspective, just because I find that to be a more balanced experience. It makes some changes, it has bug fixes, whatever it is, right? How am I going to stream on Twitch unless I have like a group of people that are just going to constantly like be playing, you know what I mean? Like hosted casual games on EP2. Like I couldn't just go on the ranked lobby where I would say 99% of our content, 99% of games come from, right, is from ranked lobby. I can't go on there and do that, and I wouldn't necessarily want to because it's a different experience. It's not training to the patch. So then whoever is going on to that, you're basically saying like, okay, well, I'll have like one account like that is for ranked ladder stuff, and then have another account for learning and playing on ESOC patch, and that would be the end.
My understanding that's exactly how it was back then. Like you had people who played on the ESOC patch, and then you had other people or another account playing on the the real game, or so it was completely separate in that way. But the thing is why I'm a little bit hesitant about an ESOC patch right now is that the game, like, we just stopped getting patches, right? Or I mean, it's been a while now, but if you compare it to when the ESOC patch was going on, like that was, I don't know, like 2011, 2012, 2000, even like 2016, they were having like ESOC tournaments, but and the game was released 2007, so like that's a long time afterwards. So the thing is that ESOC, they were the only they were keeping the competitive scene alive, right?
Yeah.
So they created their own community. So I'm sure there were lots of people playing the original Legacy Age of Empires 3, like offline or even online, but like it wasn't a huge community the way ESOC created for itself. So one thing I actually wanted to get into is that the ESOC patch, it was created by the top players in the community, the people who played competitively regularly, who wanted to get rid of some of the unbalanced things. So they balanced the game according to what they thought were reasonable.
Right.
But one thing we've talked about in the Sun Bros many times is who do we balance the game for? Like, do we
Mhm.
actually balance it for the average player? Like the like you and me, who might not be, in the, I don't know, like we might play the game, but we're not like the top 10% of the competitive scene. Or do we actually balance the game, according to what the pros think is good? And I think, you can have different opinions on this, but I'm definitely on the side of like, I prefer having a person who's played this game like a nerd and knows every single thing, is really, really good at the game. I trusted them more to balance the game than, some casual. But that's that's a value you have to balance. But the thing is, if you look at the old ESOC patch, that's exactly what happened. You had the old pros, they balanced the game, and then that became DE. So I just find that really interesting, and I would love to hear what you guys are thinking about that.
Yeah. I mean, one thing to take into consideration is the need for EP was so much higher back then than it would be today. Like, obviously, right now the game is unbalanced. There are a ton of bugs that need to be fixed. The replay system still sucks. The UI is still god awful. And I mean, I'll just be the first person to say this. I know, like, you have guys like Lionheart that are very optimistic about the devs coming back. I'm just gonna say I don't think AoE 3 is ever gonna get anything ever again. So if there's gonna be a change to the game, it needs to be an EP. And I think you just have to ask yourself, is the effort we're gonna put in worth the minor balance changes that we're gonna make for a handful of 2K ELO players? I get it back, in the original days, because it wasn't just like, oh, we have to nerf auto, we have to nerf Baja. It was like, oh, most of the maps don't even spawn a herd for one of the players. It was like, it was game-breaking stuff. And so the EP back then was mainly for, okay, we need just maps that are competitive. And they did some other Civ stuff too, whereas DE is a lot more balanced if you take away just the unique Civ mechanics. But I don't know. I guess it all depends on if you think the devs are ever going to come back, or if you think there's enough wrong with DE right now that an EP patch would be worth all of the back end that you're going to have to put in to get it working.
I think.
Yeah, can I just say one thing
go
before
ahead.
you chime in? Yeah. So, that's. I was thinking like that. I feel like this kind of patch or this community, it has to like come organically. Like, you have to have enough players who are interested in something like this for it even to make sense. And that's the point where I feel like we're still too close in this, like we like the last patch wasn't that far away. Like, people are still processing that we might not get any more patches. It's still unsure if we're getting anything at all. Like, we don't know, maybe there is. But I would tend to agree with Mr. V that I don't think it will happen, but I think it's way too early to actually. I mean, you can start having like discussions about it, but I don't think we should.
When was the announcement?
Start working on it.
When was the announcement? I can't. I don't even remember. I've been gone for so long.
It was in January or February.
AoE 3 announces no support. I don't know if Google's gonna tell me. No, because they're gonna hide it from me because it's a conspiracy.
It was early 2025. I know that. I know it was either late January or early February. And I can say this because I went into the bowels of the AoE 3 Discord. The community team staff, like Ashley and people like that, they have not been active in the AoE 3 discussions since April, like early April. So, I mean, if you think that they're going to circle back and they're going to come in at like August and say, hey, we actually have new DLCs, I think you're gaslighting yourself, honestly.
Surely they're going to circle back any day now.
Yeah.
Holy hell.
But I get what Madonna is saying about how it might be still a little too fresh to start thinking about an EP patch right away. My big question is, is there enough there to warrant a patch? Because, I mean, obviously it's going to split the community. It's going to split the ranked ladder if you can even get one on EP2, which I don't know if you can with the way mods work in DE. So I don't know, Shark. What do you think about it?
I think the big thing for me, and I'm going to read from Garja here. No, sorry, not Garja. Garja comments above where he says, a fan patch is way too much work and arguably wrong philosophy for this game to start with. But Frontline actually puts a post or a comment, I should say, underneath that. This is on the link that you sent, Madonna. And just in case if you're listening, this is the ESOC, the ESO community case for EP 2.0. If you want to look it up, he says it here that yes, he goes through issues with the game, and then he says but he finishes it with yes, an EP 2.0 would be difficult, time-consuming, and involve a non-trivial chance of failure. But I don't see any other viable path forward. And for me, I want to hone in on that. I don't see any other viable path forward. What do you mean when you say that? And I think because we will say like, oh, well, that's obvious what he means, right, guys? And we're like nudging each other, like, doesn't that like obvious the viable path forward? And it's like, no, actually, like, think about it. What do you mean by that? Like, and is that to say that if we don't get content, then the game dies, right? Nobody will play this game if it doesn't have an EP 2.0, an EP2. And that a viable path forward for the community, for the game, for the scene means that we have to have an EP2. I don't know if that is.
Do you not agree with that?
I don't know. I don't know, because the thing is so I'm at the intersection of a few things here, and I'm just going to say this. I don't like ESOC personally. I don't like them. Haven't liked them in the past. My few interactions with them, don't like them. And this sort of like self-proclaimed like we're the guys is kind of like weird to me. And I just don't like them. I find them as an organization to be relatively unprofessional. I haven't really cared much for my interactions with them as a caster, as a content creator. And I don't feel like me and mine have been included, have been on the in of it. And that's fine. ESOC does what they do and I do what I do. Right. I'm not here to start beef, start drama. Oh, I don't want anybody messaging me in Discord, whatever. Well, what's the issue? Whatever. It's not about that. It's just like, as an organization, not a big fan. And I think that we can reimagine the way that we do things as a community that is a far more inclusive space than what we had back in 2007. I think that the game is fundamentally different, and I think the community and the space is fundamentally different, but yet we're still operating on the same sort of old way, right? So like back in 2007, right, we didn't have Discord and Twitch and YouTube streaming, and there was no Mr. V, there was no Madonna, and there was no SerSharkDad, right? Like it's a fundamentally different world, but we still have the same people from back then who are then still doing the same things now on the same forum in the same way, right? Like, is odd to me. It's just super weird to me. The game has become more egalitarian. The community is far more eclectic, and the avenues of communication and content creation have blown up exponentially. So I think because we're in a different environment, that is something to consider. And I'm just kind of trying to eliminate my bias of the fact that I don't really care for ESOC, so therefore I don't really trust ESOC. Putting all that aside, I don't know if I agree with the fundamental philosophy that you need a content thing in order to make the game the more viable path forward. I don't know if we've explored every single avenue, because we're stuck in the same, and I get it, like, because this is what works. It's ease of access and it's accessible content when people cast a 1v1 game, right? This is what we do, right? Like you wake up in the morning, you roll over in bed, you go on YouTube, right? On your YouTube app on your phone, and you say, oh, Lionheart released a new video, right? I get up, I make my bed, I brush my teeth, and all the while I'm watching, Lionheart cast another 1v1 game, right, on the ranked ladder. Typically from a Twitch video of the day, whatever. And this is what we do, right? Like, Mr. V, you cast 1v1 games. I cast 1v1 games. But we've never bothered to, like, and I understand team games. I'm not saying, maybe team games or like maybe Empire Wars or whatever. But I just don't know if, like, we have bothered with, like, this is an example of a viable path forward is even this conversation, right? Like, nobody did a Age of Empires 3 podcast until I did an Age of Empires 3 podcast. And if anybody says, technically Drongo did one, fuck Drongo. And fuck you for bringing that up. Like, I see, like, you see what I mean? I hope I'm making sense. Like, I don't know what that means, viable path forward, and why that has to be an EP 2.0. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you make a lot of sense. I will speak as somebody who, I like ESOC. I work with ESOC, so you and I disagree there.
Mm-hmm.
But, the one thing I'll say is I'm also not gung-ho about EP 2.0 because, A, I don't know if it's going to be worth the work. B, I don't know who's going to run it. And C, I'm not convinced that it's not just a bunch of older players trying to return our game back to pre-DE days. Because, like, if you go through that thread, and I encourage everybody to read through all 4 pages, because obviously we're not going to fairly represent everybody's opinions in that thread.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at some of the posts, a lot of it is just, the solution is just take out all the DE crap and go back to Skirm Goon. Which, okay, like, that appeals to the guys who played in 2016, but do we want to give up all of our potential new players that enjoy DE just so that we can get a couple of semi-popular names back that might not even stay for good?
Yeah.
Like...
Can I chime in here?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Can I chime in here?
He wants to chime in.
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, this goes back to my point earlier that, like, I think it's way too early. So, like, if we wait, like, I don't know, let's say 5 years. I mean, that's a long, long time. But if you have people playing this game in 5 years, that consistently playing on the ladder, or just playing the game,
mm-hmm.
and they feel like, okay, I mean, there's obviously some things that we want nerfed. There's some things we want fixed. The people playing in 5 years, they're not gonna be your average, just casual gamer, in my opinion. And that's like how I saw that ESOC began, like with the ESOC patch. It was like people that were so dedicated to the game that they were tired of just the same broken things or the same OP strats, that they decided to, after like, I don't know, 7 years to actually, try and fix it. And that's kind of like an organic thing happening. And that's what I'm trying to say, that, like,
yeah, I see.
Like,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, we might have all the old players from Legacy still playing, but if they're playing in 5 years, then why shouldn't they be a part of this next patch too?
Well,
like, they obviously like the game, it's not like DE just ruined the game totally. Like, there's plenty of old pros who engage with the new content and they like it, but see some problematic aspects of it, and that's completely fine to have an opinion about that.
Yeah, I mean, like, nobody's saying, I don't think, and I don't want to speak for V, but, neither of us are saying, like, well, just to bring back a few of the old heads, because we have to admit, there are some pros who have left DE, but still watch from the sidelines because they don't like the way things have gone, and maybe if a patch did come in where we did go back to the old way of the Skirm Goon semi-FF, right, that maybe they would be more inclined to come back, and, like, a lot of people would enjoy that because that's the old familiar house name. But there's a lot of other new players who have come in the DE era. Slowly and surely the community has grown to a point that these are people who are not familiar with these names. Like, there's probably hundreds of players online today that are like, I don't know who Kaiser Klein is. You know what I mean? And, like, that's a different community. But here's the proposal. Here it is. And this can be the combination of organic and also absolutely bonkers crazy. We wait 1 year from the point of the announcement that they're done with support. Just 1 year. Okay. And then we go to Talanis and we say, hey, guy, they're not coming back. Stop trying to make it happen. It's been a year. Here is, I don't know, $10,000. I'm just spitting a number. I don't know, 5,000, whatever. Here's money raised by the community for you to get you and a couple of your boys together and make the definitive patch. Like, what was the end point for your vision of the game? Like, you and the team. And make that a mod in the current state. And then they make it, and then everybody pushes this. Everybody's like, you have to get on this, and I don't know if you can play ranked or get on a ladder system if you can make that happen. But then we say, everybody, Sumbros, Lionheart, Harrison, FFP, doesn't matter. Everybody's like, you got to get on this because this is the semi-official, it came from the man himself. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if that's like a legal thing.
Well, that's the thing I was going to bring up. The concept of it, I really love. Because you definitely want, I don't even know how to say this. I'm just going to say you want somebody that is well-respected, pretty unblemished in terms of their identity in the community, and actively engaged. So, the one thing I'll say about the forum post was, I think everybody was in agreement that Frontline was a really good person to bring this issue up. Because not only is Frontline a top-level player, but he's very active. It wasn't some guy that hasn't played in a tournament in 6 years crying that it needs to go back to 2014, It was somebody who's in community and competitive stuff regularly, and he knows that there needs to be a change. Now, if that was Frontline, if that was Talanis, I would love to see something like that, and I'd promote it 100%. Would Talanis ever risk putting himself in that position? I don't think he would. Because he seems to be very strategic about what opinions he gives. And I just don't know if that's something he would do, seeing as he works with the company. I don't know. Madonna, what are your thoughts on Shark's idea?
I like it. I mean, ideally it would end up being an actual patch then, because if you're doing all that work and then just not getting a patch for it, like raising all that money or like engaging the entire community, then I don't know. Like, it would be so much easier if we actually just got like a final patch,
Well, I don't know how do you even, like, I don't even know what else to do with World's Edge to, like, what is it? Like, the community couldn't even gather around and like even like leave negative reviews for how awful, the off-ramp was handled for support for the game, because people were so, well, first off, you had a lot of people brigading and acting as if, that to even speak ill of the game was
the Jannies had their brooms out hardcore.
Yeah, they did.
They were sweeping
100%. And also, but other people from other communities were very much like coming into the space and saying like, well, just be like, you're not entitled to anything. Stop whining. And I'm like, who are you again? And like, where are you from? Like, oh, you play AoE too? Like, and that's it. And then you just came in here to say something. Like, okay, cool. Thanks for that. But like, that changes opinions. But I mean, more importantly is that, because the community couldn't gather around it and like give a unified voice besides complaining within the same avenues that they would want you to direct your complaints and then just giving you the runaround, like nothing was going to happen. I mean, people were acting as if me leaving a negative review on Steam and then saying that, and advocating to leave negative reviews was like some sort of like, I was kicking their favorite puppy. Like, it was like, you can't do that because you're going to destroy the game. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't know what else to do, because now we're in the same conversation. Because I said it before that I was like, well, we're going to end up in a conversation about the game dying or what's going to be the future of the game because of the fact that they did what they did. So then now you're worried about killing the game now because we are trying to hold them accountable and not make money off the game in the future. So like, you're basically just delaying what was inevitable. And I don't know exactly what else to do with World's Edge in terms of getting anything out of them. I don't think, like, because people are like, well, we just need to get them to make more money. And I'm like, You're telling me the studio that is owned effectively by Microsoft, it just needs an extra few million in order to justify a patch? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, just like, I don't know if this is like veering the conversation at all, but let's say an ESOC patch came out, right? Like somebody produced it, whether it was official, unofficial, somebody agrees to put in the time, the work. I guess what I would want to know from you guys is what does it need to include? Because obviously you have all this stuff that the old EP included that doesn't really seem necessary. Like I just threw it in the chat that we're all using, but I found EP's like balance change sheet, and I'm looking at it and like half of it is already in DE. So, okay, we get an EP. What is the main thing it's going to do that's going to convince all of these people to download a mod and jump through all these extra hoops just to play games?
I mean, I saw Frontline on the case for EP 2.0, and I agree with him here. Like, he says that, like, to in response to like splitting the community, like he says that, well, if the patch is good enough, then people will come, and like it might start with just the top players who are interested in like super strict balancing or whatever. But I mean, there's nothing inherently limiting the reach of the patch. Like if people yearn for not having Spahi in their base at 6:30, then they might download the patch and like, oh well, look at that this feels a lot better, I'm gonna tell my friends about it. So I think there's lots and lots of obvious things in this meta that people are just like honestly dying to get fixed. Like there's so many broken strats that I think obviously not everybody's gonna agree, but that's the whole point. Like that's just how it is with patches.
A broken strat like your Hakapellet spam, Madonna?
Yes, exactly. Some people don't like that, and I would argue against that, but
okay,
I'm just saying, like there are things people agree on, and if you don't agree with it, then you don't have to download the patch.
Here's the thing, is that my big sticking point in all of this is that, again, like the majority of the community produces its content and hovers around the matchmaking scene, right? Because people just don't, it's difficult to arrange casual games. They don't want to do that, whatever the reason. And so
just to throw this in here, I mean, you run a channel, I run a channel. We all know that everything besides 1v1 just does not get traction.
No.
Like team games, Empire Wars. I mean, even if you go to a popular guy like Lionheart, compare his team game views versus his 1v1s.
Exactly. It's like 2K difference.
Close.
Yeah, it's a 2K, 3K difference. And because, and honestly, team games are just hard to cast. Like, they truly are. Like, anybody who is like curious about the casting thing, it's like and then people are like, why didn't you point this out? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Like, all of that is exponentially exacerbated by doing that in a team match.
So much going on.
Exactly. And so I would want any sort of EP2 to also include a matchmaking system that would have some sort of ranked benefit to it. And I just don't know if that's even possible. Like I truly don't think that's possible.
I don't necessarily agree that that's like a requirement, because like if you think about it, like when I play ranked, I'm around like 1600, around that mark, and I play the same about, I don't know, 25 people, give or take, like every time. And these
but do you know those 25 people though? Do you know them?
I mean, I don't have all of them on like Discord, but like a lot of them I do. Yes.
Okay.
And especially when you look at the top players, they lobby with each other all the time. Like, and now it's even easier because we have Discord. We have all of these forums that, make it easy for people to find each other if they really wanted to. So, like, for getting content, good games against, or like interesting games between players, for content, I don't think that's gonna be a problem at all with an ESOC patch, even if you eliminate like, I don't know, 80% of the player base, because the people who are really dedicated to this game and want changes to the meta, like they would be playing this, and you would get great games from that.
So I want to chime in with something that Maido said, which shout out to Maido. You guys probably don't, I mean, a lot of people watching this don't know who Maido is, but he is like an old head, former great. I actually think he just started playing again, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But in that forum post, he says, I don't really have much of an opinion on whether this is a good idea or not, but a thing to think about, rated games were still possible on ESOC patch. I believe rated games are not possible with mods. That's going to make it difficult for many players to justify installing.
Yeah.
And I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Like, the most popular mods are the ones like better unit descriptions and, mods that don't affect people's ability to hop on ranked and play games. Because a lot of us just want to do that. Like, unless you're in a community like Sunbros, you don't have the time to message people. I mean, a lot of people maybe have 30, 40 minutes, an hour. They just want to hop on ranked. They want to load up a game within 5 minutes and they want to play.
Mm-hmm.
And if ESOC patch can't reach that level of convenience, I think it's just going to be another mod that is cool. There'll be a couple of vids on it, and then it's going to be like, whatever, back to 1v1. But yeah, I could be wrong about that.
Can I just ask you? Can I ask you a question then?
Sure.
Like, what is the purpose of the potential ESOC patch 2.0? Like, for in my opinion, it wouldn't necessarily be that everybody who plays this game adopts it, because if you like the game as it is right now, that's completely fine. But when you play on ranked, and there's this very specific group of people, such as myself, who play ranked regularly, and we desperately want some of these changes, then maybe we can have a patch for us. And if that patch then becomes more popular outside of the competitive scene, then that would just be great. But I don't necessarily think that the patch needs to affect everybody. Like, if you enjoy all of these revolts or whatever it is, then I mean, you don't have to play the patch, right?
Wait, where's your question in that for Mr. V?
Like, I'm just asking, like, what is the what is your vision for the patch? Is it supposed to be a patch for everyone, or is it okay that it's just for a small section of the community?
That's a good question. I think it's all about investment versus return, right? So whatever patch you want to do, somebody's going to do this for free. I mean, unless ESOC's going to pass out paychecks, which in my experience as a caster, that's not going to happen. And I mean, you're asking somebody to do a lot of back-end work to please, from what it's sounding like, a small group of people. And I'm just wondering.
Wait a second. Wasn't the original ESOC patch just people doing that on their free time?
Oh, absolutely, it was. But that was fixing a game that was far more broken than the game we have now. And that was with the knowledge that support was not coming, because back then DE was. I mean, that wasn't even a thought in most people's minds. So I'm all gung-ho for an EP patch, and if people want to enjoy the game that way, great. I just, I would want an ESOC patch 2.0 to be as far-reaching as possible, and I would want whoever does that work to get something for all of the headaches that coding is potentially going to be.
Yeah, I see. I mean, obviously, it would be great if they actually got success, after all their work. But, I'm just thinking about the vision of an ESOC patch. I think it would have to be like you would have to have a clear vision. Like, okay, we want to, let's say we want to reduce, I don't know, revolts, like how powerful the revolts are or whatever, like just something like that you have a clear vision, and if enough people like that, then people will come to your project. And if not, then it's just gonna be one of the other 100 mods that has come and gone. Like it's not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's that complicated, really.
May I ask you a question then?
Of course.
Whose vision? Because
Um,
I've seen mods run by community vote, and those mods seem to run into a lot of issues because it's like we said about the Hackapellet thing, right? Like somebody in that group is going to be against a certain change because, well, that's my favorite civ. You can't make banks more expensive because I main Dutch, so no, we don't like that one. So you're going to want a group of like a handful of people. I don't know if I would make it just one person, like make it just Frontline. But, I mean, whose vision are you going to follow?
Yeah, well, that's a tricky question. But I'm one of those, I don't know, like elitist gamers who I believe like the top players should decide. Now, who are those top players? I'm not sure. And it would have to be someone, as you said, someone like Frontline who's trustworthy, who has respect from multiple parts of the community, not just the top players, but also the people like us. But I'm not fixed. Like I don't necessarily have an answer for you. Like, oh, I would trust Maido or whoever. Like, I don't think that's the core issue. Like I don't want to open it up to the entire community either. Like I don't, as you said, like community wide voting on issues. Like I don't necessarily think that's a good idea.
I mean, the elephant in the room is the fact that our number one player would not be included in the conversation.
That's true.
And he would have a community around him that would be resistant to any patch. I mean, he would act as if he wants to be a part of the project, and then he would come in to just total the project. HOTP would be like a huge thorn in the side of anything that is going to happen with any of this. And I do think that, not for anything, I if the patch is just going to be for the top 1% of people, then I mean I'll just scrap the episode that we're recording now, because like what would be like, who cares then? Like, okay, like you have to learn this patch when you're doing an ESOC tournament. Okay, well then Kevin, Azank, Gigs, Frontline, like those guys, like all those guys will play on that patch, and they'll learn it inside and out, and then that's what we'll watch on ESOC, and then everybody's just gonna have to understand that it's a different version of the game. However, like for the vast majority of other players, then it's like, all right, well then it doesn't really impact me. Now, of course,
but wait a minute, but that's exactly how the first ESOC patch started, though. That's the thing. It's an organic growth.
And then filtering down to the rest of the community. But the problem is that
it took years, and that it's not something that happens overnight. But sure, that's okay.
Sure, yeah, and that is hypothetically okay. But also at the same time is that, like I said, it's an entirely different environment that we're in now, in which, as V has pointed out and as I pointed out, people are like. I mean, the fact that like Star Wars is still a successful franchise is a demonstration that people just don't like change. And I'm like stuck on that point. And so the thing is that, as V pointed out, that you're going to go on your ranked ladder and that's going to be the end of it, right? You're going to go on, you're going to play your 2 or 3 games and then you're going to be done. And now maybe that's fine, right? But I think you're sort of, we're back at that dividing the community thing bit again, right? Because it's like, all right, well, it could filter down and it's organic. You get to choose as a player. That's fine. Okay. But it's an active player base of around 6,000 players at best. Not at best, but like generally speaking, 6,000 players. We don't want to necessarily be taking people from the ranked pool, because then you're ruining the experience of a lot of people. You can't play EP2 on ranked. So then what's happening? So then you're either forced to play EP2 and then having to arrange a game, and then not for anything, I have my own life. And then when I do hop on, my buddy Madonna is not going to be on because he's going to be sleeping because he lives in Europe. And a lot of my friends live in Europe. And I don't know many American players. And so that's an issue. And then if I know Asian players, that's an issue. So we've just segmented me off. And so then if I decide not to play EP2, then I'm backed on ranked and I'm not playing EP2 with other people, and I'm playing on ranked to a limited player base. You see what I mean? So it's like that organic filtering down, hypothetically totally fine. But the thing is that you're in a bind at that point. of like, it's a perfect catch-22. And this is why I was saying before that it is kind of a necessary condition that there is some sort of avenue for somebody to be able to easily access a game on EP2. I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe there's a system where people are just constantly hosting casual lobbies and, you know, you set like the elo of the casual lobby, but I don't know how you even control that. So like, I don't know what you do in this case, like whatsoever. You see what I mean, though?
I just find the like presumption a bit off. Like this game survived back in like 2007, like when there was no Discord. There was like different kinds of forums and, you know, all of this awkward stuff. And this game survived even through all of that. And that's thanks to ESOC in a lot of ways, just because, you know, there was this project to try and improve the game. And you know, it wasn't for the casual player who was just playing against the AI. It was for the people who were playing this game online every day, who really, you know, cared about balancing. And you know, I don't see why couldn't that organic growth happen now? Like we have even more opportunities now because we can talk to people from across the community super easy. I can message literally anyone. I can message the top players, and they would, you know, talk to me. And like everyone I've met in this community has been, you know, friendly, open to, you know, discussion about balancing and everything. So
Right.
I don't really see the problem there.
So I agree with what Madonna is saying, and I don't want to come off as anti ESOC patch. I guess the question that I want to ask is, I think we can all agree ESOC patch good would be great. Necessary, I'm not sure. Because that's a lot of work, obviously. I mean, the coding, just like the balanced discussion would be very strenuous, going through each civ and figuring out, okay, what DE stuff is good, what's not good, which top players are we listening to, like, do we take in the opinions of the House of Trading Post people? Is it just kept to ESOC? What about the lower level guys? Do they get input? And I guess the thing I'm wondering is there an easier way to help, you know, kind of revive interest in the game without some big patch? Like, we have limited resources. We're a small community. Should those limited resources be directed somewhere else?
One thing I've been thinking about, if I can just quickly, lately, like especially this spring, there's been a lot of tournaments. We had the ESOC thing. We now have the ESOC Spring Championship, and now we have the EPL, which is another ESOC tournament. And we've had the me and Toblerone, we've been organizing a mid ELO tournament for the Sunbros. Which both me and Mr. V, you were in it too.
Yeah, I got spanked.
It
was
and
ugly.
I've even seen a low elo tournament going around as well. So like, I think tournaments are a great way for us as the community to market the game. Not necessarily because it's gonna reach new people, but it engages the community. You know, there's so many people who, you know, maybe don't have the time to play every day, but they love watching a good game, like on Twitch or on YouTube, you know? So I think more tournaments, and we've been really lucky that people have the energy to arrange all of these tournaments, because it's a lot of work, and I think we should keep doing that and just, you know, raise awareness about that.
I just think that, I mean, I'm just reading this exchange to this point. Like, you know, Maido essentially reiterates what I'm saying here. He says, I think the lack of rated games, matchmaking, and a difficult to read game browser make this significantly harder to get people to adopt compared to previous fan patches. And then a Another individual comments right below, yeah, exactly. EP2 would be basically equivalent to just doing Civ bans tourney rules for lobbies. It would benefit ladder play a lot, but it's impossible, as far as I know, to implement a fan patch into the QS ladder, so that point is irrelevant. If all EP2 is doing is making tourneys and lobbies and have a default ban Baja and Auto Church FI setting, then I don't really see the point, since we can already have that with Civ rules. And then Frontline then comments further that he's like, I'm willing to helm the project, pool of active playtesters, precise feedback. I have a vision of where this should go and eventually settle it. I don't have any desire to impose overly controversial changes for the sake of ego or of change itself. And I mean, like, all that's all well and good. I just think, again, is that I do think that there is a segment of the population, and the reason why I say that it is, about this premise is because I'm one of those people. I don't want to have to go through my friends list to find somebody who's willing to play a casual game with me. I just don't. I want to play somebody that I don't know, who I can just hate, because I don't know him, and I can just play against him in ranked. You know what I mean? Like
I just found one of those people, by the way. I think I found the first person on the ranked ladder that I actively hate. I won't call them out, but oh man, I can't stand him.
Dude, I got a long list of banned. I have a long list of blocked people.
He plays auto, by the way.
Of course,
Shocker.
naturally.
Oh, what a surprise.
Yeah. Auto FF.
And so, like, I'm fine if we say, like, well, there's an ESOC patch. Okay, cool. So, like, if I'm part of, like, the 1v1 low elo Legends Sumbros tournament that we're casting, and we say, well, this has to be on ESOC patch, okay, fine. Then I'll learn a separate patch, and we can make that, like, the gentleman's standard ESOC patch for tournament games, right? Totally okay. But
But realistically, how would you be affected by that? If all the top players moved to the ESOC patch, you wouldn't even notice.
You're right. No, you're totally. I mean, besides the fact that you're pulling people out of the content creation arena, right? That they're not streaming on Twitch or whatever, and
they're still gonna stream on Twitch just on the patch.
No, yes, exactly.
But
they're gonna be advertising the game, but on a specific patch rather than playing rank ladder for people to make content out of. And then, then you get into other issues of, like, because what I think would grow the community is actually, like, not only just further advertising the game, but making it a little bit more accessible, and I think that there needs to be people, helping me with Civ Spotlight and then the new build order videos that we're working on, spoiler alert, in the background here, that are going to make it, like, really, really easy to pick up a Civ and learn them and then start to play. Because of that, I think a big issue at Age of Empires 3 is the inaccessibility of the game. And so when you start to address that, the problem is that if you have people on another patch, then suddenly, you see what I mean? Like, their content creation is now segmented off from the rest. So yeah, you're advertising the game, but then somebody gets on the game and they want to play a certain way, and they're like, oh, why is this all different? Why do these build orders not work? Why is this not the case? And it's like, oh, well, because what you were watching there was because they're on this whole separate thing, whatever. And it's like, you're right, it wouldn't, like, impact me.
I see what you mean, but like, realistically, the people who watch, like, the casual viewer who watches maybe Age of Sunbros videos,
mm-hmm.
Like, it might not, be the same people who are interested in, an ESOC patch. But if it gets people interested in the game through your videos, then, they might later on become fans of the game, and then later on they want to join, like, on the ESOC patch. Like, I don't necessarily think those two are, as incompatible as you make it out to be.
Well,
like, I don't think it's necessarily going to hurt the game.
But then this kind of contradicts other arguments that I've heard from the community that say that I need to have somebody, like, I want to have the 2K ELO Pro making me guides. Like, I want SerSharkDad to bring on the 2K ELO Pro to do a Civ Spotlight. I want to watch the 2K ELO Pros go at it, like, in a game, and that's where I'm going to learn. That's what, like, these are the people, this top 1% are, I've been told over and over and over and over again, these are the people that people outside the community want to listen to, they want to watch, and that's what's entertaining, that's what's fun. Like, in the competitive scene is what grows the game. I've been, like, this is something that I've been told a million times. And then now in this argument, I'm kind of hearing that, well, it doesn't actually matter. Like they can play on a different version of the game now.
Sorry, what I'm trying to say is that like if you bringing in people into the game, they're gonna have no idea what's going on in like the first, I don't know, 4 months of learning this game, because there's so much to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So if they get invested and they play for 4 months and they like, oh shit, I really like this game, then they might be like, oh wait, so the pros are actually playing on another patch, or like they have another patch. Like they're not even gonna be noticing that until they actually get invested into the game. And getting invested into the game and learning the basics, that's still gonna be like content from you, because like the fundamentals aren't gonna change of the game. Like they're not gonna remove Mexico.
Well, that depends on who you ask, because
okay.
And see,
I don't believe they're gonna remove Mexico.
Well, this goes back to my point, right? Like trying to build this patch by committee, and I mean we're just 3 guys that all get along with each other, and we have no dog in the fight.
Do we?
I mean, Madonna, you might get up to like the top level one day, but I mean, me and Shark, like, we have no delusions about like, oh, one day I'll be on EP patch, like. And so this just goes back to my point of, you can get all these people together, you can get all of the knowledge in the world, but sometimes bringing the most qualified people just creates more arguments, because now all of the ego is wrapped up in it, right? And I mean, from what I'm hearing, like, some people want the ESOC patch for balance. Some people want it for accessibility. My thing is, I want it for appearance, because our game, one of the things that I think turns a lot of new players off is it just looks like crap. It's hard to navigate. Like, go play a modern game, even though I hate games like Call of Duty. Go play Call of Duty and look at how nice that UI is and how easy it is to navigate. And then boot up DE, where it's like, I have to feel like I'm solving a riddle just to figure out who's on my friends list and who's online.
Yeah.
And so if there was an ESOC patch, I don't really want it to affect the balance all that much, because honestly, I don't think the balance is as bad as some of the top level players say. I mean, I know that's rich coming from a scrub like me. But if you watch the spring tournament, people weren't abusing Baja. People weren't spamming Ottoman bombards.
That's because it was banned.
Well, I mean, people could have still used US Outlaws, and people still could have used DE Civs in the finals. But what did we see in the finals? We saw a lot of France. We saw a lot of Lakota. We saw, some Ottoman. But it wasn't like one guy spammed a couple of abusive builds and won the tournament. So, I mean, to me, it's like, if you're going to make an ESOC patch, I wouldn't worry about the balance so much, because you're going to get bogged in that all day. I would focus on fixing the bugs, like the old 8 Expo bug that used to be in there. Or is that still in there? I don't know. And just make the UI look better, because that's something everybody can get behind. And then there's no split in the community of like, oh, do I want to play the version where Baja's really fun and overpowered, or do I want to play the version where Baja sucks and doesn't exist?
I would say, I mean, I think the solution forward to this crux that we're stubbing our toe on, because Madonna's like, well, it can be organic and it's fine, and a new player coming in wouldn't know, and this, that, and the other. But what I'm saying is that we're still dividing up a pretty tight competitive scene as it is by doing this. I mean, even if like there's a gentleman's agreement that we're going to play tournaments on the other patch, but then, people are still going to play ranked, you're still kind of like, well, a lot of people are going to say, well, I got to learn the new patch and I prefer that, and I'm not going to play on this freaking ranked ladder or whatever. And so the minute you start taking even if I take out 20 players from 1500 to 1600 elo, I mean, that is a pretty, like a sizable impact on that elo range, so it's kind of like it's a tough call. And I think the best thing for it is just at least ESOC needs to, because, and this is another issue that I have with ESOC, is the fact that they have done nothing and said nothing regarding World's Edge. And I understand that they have like a connection with World's Edge, and there's some sort of like kind of relationship that is there, where World's Edge gives them a Discord post every once in a while, and they need to preserve that relationship for some reason. But I don't know, Mr. V, maybe you know more about that, and I'm speaking out of my neck. But
Oh wait a second. Isn't like from my understanding, ESOC isn't like one or two people. Like it's a collection of, it's not just one person deciding everything.
No, I
Like,
think
they
ESOC.
can't just-
Well, I do think ESOC is organized by a very small group of people. I mean, this thing doesn't go off unless there is, there's got to be like, I mean, we're talking like a very, very small group of individuals, maybe 5. I would imagine are what make ESOC go round. I don't think it's like a bunch of people that are like, all together and they're like, oh, well, we're all going to like agree and we're going to make these forums and we're going to cast these games and organize these tournaments. I think it's like I understand that a lot of people are involved, but I think like decision makers is probably few, at least from what outside looking in. Again, I could be wrong.
Well, from my limited exposure, because I don't get into the nitty gritty. I basically, I reply when casters are needed, and I've only been treated very, very well by ESOC. But from what I see, it's a small group of guys who are doing a lot of work. Like you take a guy like Joshua, and you take all of the UI and, the map intro videos, everything they do to make ESOC look professional, which, some people think is necessary and some people think is like, okay, we're putting window dressing on something that doesn't need it. It's a really, really large amount of the work being done by, from what it looks to be, a pretty small group of people. And so I don't know, like, in ESOC patch, I'm conflicted because on the one hand, I want these old people to come back. I want all of these players that are sitting on the sidelines watching because they don't like where DE is now. I want them to come back, but I don't want them to come back at the cost of losing another section of players that really like DE and, they really enjoy it. And now they feel like, well, I can't play in the tournament because it's on this fan patch that I never play on,
Mm-hmm. I was just gonna say,
where's the restriction of new players coming into the ESOC like community? Like everyone I've met that's been around ESOC or like on the, even if it's mostly the old players speaking on the ESOC forums, like there's new players there too. Like there's nobody gatekeeping like new players from coming in and giving their opinions.
I mean, I was just gonna say, before we get to that point, before we talked a little bit about World's Edge and Mr. V added that, and I was just gonna say earlier that the best way to solve this is that for ESOC, I mean, for the fact that it has maintained some sort of relationship with World's Edge, I mean, you would think that maybe that there is a way to have a conversation with somebody to say, could you please allow mods like for ranked ladder play for this mod? I mean, I don't know if that's a possibility, but that's probably the only way around this kind of like stumbling block of like this mod is going to allow the like rank ladder to continue. That they can do a little data patch on the back end that just lets that occur. I think that would be the only way.
Yeah. And, like at the end of the day, if people want EP 2.0, which I have no problem with, if somebody wants to put in however many hours for it, great. Like, it's not going to be me. But, if people want that, that's great. But then I think we should be honest with ourselves and say, like, hey, guys, EP 2.0, it's not going to be the community, like, lightning bolt that it was in 2007. It's not going to revive the community like it used to because, well, A, the community's not the same, and B, EP 2.0 is just, it's not going to be as needed as it used to be. So, I mean, I think as long as people are honest, like if Frontline wants to take on this project, I think people need to tell them, hey, just so you know, all this work might lead to very negligible returns. And if they're okay with that, great. Like, awesome. I'll support it. I'll promote it. I just don't want people to all think, oh, this is gonna get us to 10,000 players. And then they go, oh,
but
well.
I don't think that was never the point of the original ESOC patch either. Like, as I said, I think we kind of.
But no, he already addressed that because the game
came out of nowhere.
No,
it was like organic growing of the community. Like it picked it up and they liked it. And then
he had already
people moved
stated
on.
that the game was the original legacy game was of a much worse position when support ended. That sort of like necessitated.
Yeah, but that's a subjective opinion. Like I wouldn't necessarily like agree. I think there's so much content in this game now that you can find an infinite number of things.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna push against that a little bit. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that I think it is a. I'd like to think it's a pretty universally. It's not like it's just a universally accepted thing that like Legacy at the end of its life cycle, if we can all remember that, was significantly worse than DE at the end of its life cycle in terms of like just.
I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying like there's from my perspective as somebody who plays this game regularly on the ranked ladder, like there is a lot of things that I find completely unacceptable that I want out of the game or changed or nerfed or buffed or whatever.
Right.
That actively makes me not want to play this game.
I see.
And that's gonna be taking its toll over the years, you know? And that's what might end up being the thing that makes me stop playing this game.
I see.
And that's where a potential ESOC patch could come in for people like me who enjoy, you know, playing relatively competitively.
You know
that's
what?
all I'm saying.
You know what I
for
wish?
For me, like there's the like yeah, they might not be game breaking stuff for you, but for me, some of these things are. That's all I'm saying.
I wish. What I wish is that I don't know. I think about like Bethesda games where, you know, if I fire up you know, like they're working on Sky Oblivion, right? Which is basically an entirely new game, but within the game, right? So if I buy Skyrim and then through Skyrim I can boot up Sky Oblivion, and it's basically just an extended mod of Skyrim that includes Oblivion, right? Just as an example, you can do this. You know, there's a Fallout 4, like a Tundra edition, I think, or something like that. That's like a survival mode, and it's entirely different, you know, and you boot that up within Fallout 4. I just wish there was something, and maybe this is even more extensive and not possible. I just wish that there was a way for me to like go on the main menu of Age of Empires 3 DE and then hit a button that puts me on EP 2.0, and it boots up that, and it's like Mr. V was saying, that it's a new UI, and you can now play casual games, ranked games, Empire Wars, team games, whatever, you know, on an ESOC server, right, that is hosting EP 2.0. You know, obviously with like that's built out, and then with the permission that it's a mod, and you know it's got the thumbs up from World's Edge or whatever, and then it's like its own thing. And I mean, I guess that divides the community in itself, right? Because now you're like, well, it's a mod, like it's a mod of a game, right, that is so extensive that you're like on its own thing, and maybe that's not even like legal or possible, but that would probably be the best. That'd be the best thing for it, I think.
Yeah, but how do you really realistically push for that? In my opinion, that would be through like a spokesperson like ESOC. I mean, it could be anyone, but it has to be like some kind of community center, whether it's ESOC or Free Food Party or Sunbros or whatever. Like it has to be some kind of front person, you know, saying like, oh, hey, we're representing the Age of Empires community. Can we please talk to the devs or Microsoft or whoever?
Yeah, I mean, I love that. And the best solution for this problem is, and I think we can all agree, is for, you know, ESOC to be completely unnecessary, right? It would be great if we didn't need ESOC. Unfortunately, we need it because this game, even in Legacy, the game was mishandled. And the only reason the game survived was because somebody came in, you know, guys like Garja and Azank, and they put in a titanic effort to make the game playable. And, you know, that led to a resurrection of the game. And I just don't want people to be under the concept that that's what EP 2.0 is going to do. It will make tournaments better, and it will make things more balanced for higher level players. But I think that's going to be the extent of its reach. And if that's all people want, that's great. I I just don't, I don't want people to have a false view of what the return of ESOC patch would be.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assertion. And you know what it is? I think that there's like, so we have a lot of German listeners. It reminds me of the debate that was occurring back in the 19th century, right? Of like this idea of a little Germany versus the big Germany. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that like historical debate that occurred, especially around 1848 with the revolutions that were breaking out. But this idea of, whether like there will be a little Germany in the sense of, Prussia and, various Germanic kingdoms, Bavaria, things like that. Sorry if you're from some other random kingdom like Hanover or Holstein or whatever, like screw you, I guess. But like, is it going to be just those kingdoms, or is it also going to include, Austria and the greater, Austrian Germany, and just the Habsburg lands, right? And so the reason why I bring that up is because that's sort of the debate about the ESOC patch, right? Are we going to have a little ESOC patch, or are we going to have the big ESOC patch? Because a little ESOC patch would just be, as Madonna is saying, well, what's wrong with it just being a thing just for the high elo players, and they get to decide for themselves, and then it organically grows in the community, and then you can choose to play on it or you don't play on it, and it doesn't impact accessibility, whatever. But then we were kind of like, well, there's cons to that in the sense that you are kind of dividing up the community a little bit. You are presenting another hurdle for entry for people, because then they're like, well, I want to play with these people, whatever. Oh, you're on this mod, you got to organize around it, this kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, go either way.
If I can jump in here, we're also kind of assuming that the high level players will all get on board. And if you read the forums, that's not what it is. Like, the forums are not the low-level players saying that ESOC is unnecessary and the high-level players all saying, yes, it is. It's mostly high-level players disagreeing with each other. So you could pass an ESOC patch, and like, let's say ESOC does it. They say, hey, guys, let's give them a year. So Spring Championships 2026, it's going to be on EP 2.0. Okay. What's to say some of your more popular guys will say, no, I don't do EP, I'm out.
Maybe.
And now you have this problem that you didn't used to have, where, now we have to negotiate with, okay, which tournament is going to pull in which high-level players.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess it comes down to, it depends on how much is even changed within the patch. And I feel like that's kind of a little bit outside the scope of the podcast at that point, because it's like, well, are we just making like bug fixes and pathing and UI kind of stuff? Or is it going to be like,
remove auto from the game?
Yeah, like then it's like, okay, well now whole strategies are being wholesale, like getting cut, like, all right, you can't just like Baja Revolt anymore. And obviously I'm being pedantic, but this idea, right, of like, then it becomes expansive, and then maybe you're right. Like that is something to consider, of like, if there are a couple pro players that are like, actually, no, I feel like I like a lot of things about the way that I like to play has been removed, and therefore I won't be a part of it. And so that is a question. And I do think that the lesser Germany, or little Germany versus big Germany, or greater Germany, right? Greater German solution, whatever, however you want to put it, like, is a part of this, because then if you have little ESOC patch, right? But then if you have big ESOC patch, then suddenly like you do address a lot of the concerns about, potentially ranked ladder, competitive matchmaking, a more extensive ESOC patch with a lot more extensive support that comes from the community organically. However, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, like when you buy the game, like everybody needs to let you know, like you have to have this mod, and you have to like get, and we could do that, right? But then it becomes like a much more extensive project that, I wouldn't even really be comfortable seeing that until like a couple of years down the road, and it would take a long time to put together, if it's even possible.
Also, is the person that's building EP 2.0 signing up to be its continuous editor? There's probably a better word for that. But like, if we go back to EP 1, they did not get it right the first try. There were constant patches. And so this person that you're asking to do all this, presumably for free, are they also going to be willing to make all of the changes ongoingly? Like, are they going to sign up for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 patches along the way. And then, if that person decides to pull what a lot of high level players do and go on a 6-month hiatus, do you have backups for that? Or is now EP where the game is now, where it's frozen? So, I mean, there's a lot of good things with ESOC patch, but I think you would want to start out conservatively. Bug fixes, UI improvements. Don't touch the balance if you don't have to. That would be my vote. But again, there would also be high-level players that would say that that's not progressive enough. Kind of like, you talked about revolutions, right? Every revolution that happens, there's a side that says, whoa, we're going too far, and a side that says we're not going far enough. Mm-hmm. And I think the community would take that same stance. The old heads would say, no, it doesn't feel like 2014 yet. We got to make more changes. And then another side that would say, whoa, this isn't even DE anymore. This just feels like legacy. We've gone too far. And I think that's going to be unavoidable as soon as you start messing with the balance.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but I mean, those discussions must have happened back then too. Like, there's people obviously disagreed with some of the ESOC changes, and as you pointed out before on the version history of ESOC, like, there's insane amount of changes. Mm-hmm. And I mean, so I was just gonna say that, like, I mean, however this patch or whatever might happen, it's obviously gonna have to start out small. It's gonna have to fix the most obvious changes or the most obvious problems first.
Yeah.
And then just slowly go from there. Like, I don't think this is not gonna be a quick fix. It's gonna take years. But for those of us who really love this game and are gonna stick with it, then in the end it might be worth it.
I'm gonna hold to the idea that Talanis is gonna have to be the man to do it. I think that we have to find a way to make it so that World's Edge or somebody within that can kind of turn off whatever the guard mode is on the ranked matchmaking to, like, allow for this, and then, like, him and a couple of others that are skilled can make that happen. But I also agree with Mr. V here that it's like this is not the lightning rod. I think there are plenty of avenues that we could have, but I don't think at AP2 is, like, necessarily, like, the only path forward. And so I agree with Madonna that it's like it is a bit early, and I think it has to be in stages. I'm not sure. Obviously, we're all just kind of, like, speculating and throwing things at the wall, and it's just a fun discussion. I mean, even though, like, even though you guys were, like, dead wrong the whole time about everything, it is good to.
Well, and something else to, like, point out, because the recent podcast episodes, they can feel a bit pessimistic. I know when I released my video about World's Edge, I was extremely negative, because that's just
you were depressed.
Yeah, that was the place I was in. But I mean, we're also not where we are when the first EP came out. Like, we just had one of our most well-viewed, popular tournaments in our game's history, including ESOC patch. We have more YouTubers covering the game than ever. So there is a part of me that goes, okay, like, is EP necessary when we're at the current level we're at? And I think the higher players would say yes. Whereas the more casual viewers are like, well, couldn't we, like, put that time into, I don't know, like, making more tournaments and more content? But there's always going to be that divide between the people that love playing the game competitively and the people that just like watching the game. They're always going to want those resources to go towards different things.
I mean, here's hoping that they even just sell the game off, give it to somebody else to handle. I mean, I don't know why they didn't do that originally, just hand the keys elsewhere, but
well, whatever. If they're so ashamed of it, which they seem to be,
yeah, you might as well.
I do want to point out that out of that video that I made months ago, my prediction that the staff was just going to return to their cave and ignore us, that was 100% correct. So
yeah.
I feel vindicated about that.
Yeah, they
Sorry,
were. People
that
are
has
like,
nothing
oh,
to do with EP. But
yeah. Everybody's like all these. I'm not gonna call it the names. There are plenty of names that are like sign the petition and keep talking on the Discord. And I believe I pointed out. I think Madonna pointed out was like, you're just complaining on the same channels that they want you to complain on. They want you to contain your complaints. They don't want you to negatively review the game. They don't want you to, do anything outside of the scene, right? And yeah, sign your petition and hand it off. And they're like, yeah, oh wow, that's an amazing thing. And we're having conversations about the fact that you signed an online petition. All right, cute, like whatever. It's ridiculous.
I think unless you were able to procure, maybe we'll have to ask Madonna to break open the piggy bank. Unless you can procure a truckload of money and just back it up to the World's Edge headquarters, anything below that, I don't think you're going to get much more than a pat on the head.
I think Madonna's the most broke out of the three of us, if I was going to hazard to guess anything. I mean, his healthcare is paid for, which is nice, but like, he don't make much.
I was planning, since I'm the only pop star in the room, Madonna, I was thinking about going on a world tour in 2028, and maybe I can do...
Will you promote EP 2.0 while you're at it?
Yeah. Exactly.
I'll
see what I can do.
Let's end on a more positive note here. If everybody can just tell me what your favorite meal is as a send-off.
Ooh.
My favorite meal?
Yeah, your favorite meal.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's a great one. I'm trying to decide how American I want to be about my answer. You know what? I'll say my favorite meal is buffalo steak.
Yeah.
I'm from the Dakotas, so it's really easy for us to get buffalo. I guess people are like, oh, it's called a bison. All right, bison steak. It's so good. It's like beef, but better.
Yeah, I've had bison burgers, not bison steak.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's quite good. Madonna?
I'm gonna say I have this great recipe of like a Parmesan chicken with like thyme and potatoes in the oven. It's really, really good.
So you melt
My favorite meal to
melt
make.
the Parmesan on the chicken in the oven, I'm guessing.
No, it's like a sauce. You put like white wine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're making like a white sauce.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Cool.
I just want to say like one quick thing. Like, there's a lot of pessimism in the community, but I think, as Mr. V said, like we had a lot of viewership in the last tournament, in the last ESOC tournament, and there's a lot of people on the ladder. Like I don't necessarily feel like we're in a bad spot, like as a community. Like there's plenty of people playing. Like this game is not dying anytime soon.
Yeah, no.
It's just feels that way because we're we don't get any support anymore. But I just wanted to end on a positive note there.
Well, and I think there are, we also have a tendency to make all of our problems outward when, I think there's a lot of things we could do to fix some of our issues just in-house. So like, here's a really good example. High level players, like, stop changing your name every 2 days, because it's really hard for us to like have favorite players and follow our favorite players when you have 3 accounts because you don't want to lose your imaginary internet points. So sorry, that may have come out harsher than I wanted, but like the fact that you can't tell who's who, like most of the time on the top ladder, that just gets irritating, because it's like, well, you want to know certain players by one name, right? Like Shark is Shark. But if he was like a different sea creature every 3 days in Discord, it would get really annoying to try to talk to him. So, I mean, there's just one thing you could do to make the community better. But yeah, I agree, Madonna. Like, community's in a really good spot where it is.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I agree. And I think, like I said, and the inevitable path forward, right, is maybe not as clear to all of us, at this moment, at this juncture in the game. And so, maybe we can revisit this in a year or two if we're still alive, and see where we're at.
What?
Dude, you never know. You really never know. Make every moment count.
Yeah.
Make every moment count.
But we can expect more content from Mr. SharkDad. Is that an assumption?
Yeah,
Yes.
the official return. That's a positive thing.
This
Yeah,
is the
that's-
official return. I am back.
Hell
I've
yeah.
been begging you to come back for.
Well, things are
At
going to
least
pick
a
up a
month.
lot in July. They're going to pick up a lot in July because I'm going to go on TDY in July down to Florida. I'm not going to say my location, but I'm going to be doing like an intensive special operations communications course thing down there, and then that's going to leave a lot of time in the evenings for me to be able to do my recordings and stuff like that, to put stuff out, and we have ideas, so it's going to be good. It'll be really good. But yeah, I do think that that we have not done all that we can, and we can do more as a community. But also like World's Edge, it just feels scummy. I don't want to make them any money on my free labor. It's kind of like I want to make new friends and and have people enjoy the game, but I also hate World's Edge. So it's like it's a weird spot to be in. They do not deserve a cent. But
I would just say do it for yourself. Like if you enjoy making content.
Yeah, that's
then just do
that's
that.
where I was at. I mean, I had a mental breakdown kind of thing after Japan. Before Japan, during Japan, after Japan. That was I was in Japan for a few weeks, and that was it was a rough time. And so I just couldn't find myself continuing, and I stepped away without saying anything. And I kind of feel bad about that now, sort of, but I could have said that I needed a break or whatever. There was a lot going on. I just didn't know exactly how to approach it. And you're right. I have come back because I enjoy doing it. I enjoy having conversations with you guys, specifically you two, that it was I was messaging you guys before I was talking to anybody else. And so that was really good, but yeah, you're right. It's not for them. It is for the community. It's for my enjoyment. And so I'm looking forward to the future for sure. But yeah, I don't think we've tried every avenue, and I do think that Empire Wars has potential out there that has not really been explored. I think other things
that would make for some amazing content.
I do think that would work, but I mean, I'm not gonna spend the rest of this podcast talking about potential ideas for videos and stuff like that. But I do think you're both right on that, and that we have plenty to look forward to. So we can end on a positive note.
Maybe we can ask if people have suggestions for what they want to see in the community.
I don't want to hear anybody's suggestions in these comments.
Okay.
I don't somebody's gonna be in there. I think.
Oh, let me read these comments.
Yeah.
More 1v1. More 1v1. Can I see some 1v1?
Here's a poll. What do you guys want? I would love some 1v1 matches between 2K ELO players.
I'm gonna admit that I'm a complete hypocrite because I'd vote 1v1.
Yeah.
I'd 100%
There's probably
vote
some
1v1.
guy who's gonna be like, I want Empire Wars, and
One
you're gonna
guy.
be like, oh shit, that's what I thought.
One guy.
Yeah, and it's gonna be you.
I just said it.
It's gonna be.
But I just said that. I don't need to leave a
Dude,
comment
it'll,
on my video.
You're gonna do it because we're gonna upload this on Sunbros TV and not on fucking SerSharkDad TV.
There should be a
Well,
separate.
see, it could be worse because when they were doing the ESOC finals, they put out a vote for which casters they wanted to see cast the finals.
Oh yeah.
And I came in second to last. So be careful about how eager you are to put up polls, because that was my fucking idea. I was like, hey, we should probably see who wants to cast the finals. And my ego was like, I'll probably come in second or third. And I mean, Lionheart came in first, and I saw myself with 3 votes. I did not vote for myself. I was not that
Who is
petty.
even on the list?
But it was so one of the guys that I think is this dude is amazing is you need to get to know Baron. He does a lot of stuff with ESOC. He does not have his own channel, but dude, Baron
is he
is
the what are they called? Those VTubers, the people who like make anime things
No,
of
no, no,
themselves.
No.
You're not. No, that's
Baron is just a part of the community. He's like mid elo, depending on who you ask. I mean, in my opinion, he's high elo because he's higher than me. But he's like producer, caster. Like he's the type of guy you.
Baron
would
Von
really well
Games.
with. And then it was.
No, this is
no,
old.
no.
That's old.
No, I think he works
Baron,
like
that's
specifically
just
through
his name
others.
on Discord.
Yeah,
Oh, that's just his name on Discord. Well, what's his channel?
I don't think he
He
has.
doesn't
one.
have a channel. Like,
Oh,
he's
so he
just
just
a part of
casts.
ESOC.
He just casts on ESOC, but he doesn't have a
Yeah.
channel.
Yeah.
And produces.
Yo.
Like he's a
Yeah.
he's an amazing producer and he's a really good caster too.
Mhm.
But
But it was like him.
until recently.
Yeah, it was like him, Harrison, Lion. Yeah, it was like your typical guys.
What happened to Len? Did he
but-
die in Ukraine or something?
I have no idea. I don't know what happened to Interjection. Like, I still don't know if he's actually in prison because that's the thing people always say. I don't know.
Interjection
You
in
guys not know
prison?
who Interjection is? Whoa, you've not heard about this?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, now we're
I have
We're
no
drama.
idea.
we
It
have to
could be
record a new
anything.
episode. AoE 3 drama.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I don't know. It's
You should make a Age of Empires 3 drama podcast.
Okay, we'll have
Honestly-
to. You know what? Like, actually,
you want to do a
Leave it in
RevNac
the
episode.
comments.
well,
You
I
freaking
kind of. So
know
when I
you
had
want to.
Shake on, when I had Shake
That
on the
was the RevNac
podcast, that
episode.
was like a. I did not expect Shake is gonna listen to this. Oh well, if he gets
Dude,
this
he's
far.
the definition of a loose cannon. He knows
Yeah,
exactly
but
what he was doing.
But I truly did not expect, like, personally did not expect him to be like, he's like, by the way, you know what you did, like, neo-Nazi, whatever. I was like, yo, what?
buddy, you cannot put Shake on anything that you're not willing to have get.
Oh my god, that was crazy. So we'll have to arrange like a drama thing because people still ask like, wait, what did RevNac do? And I'm like, yo, how are you not aware?
I'm pretty sure that might actually be RevNac because I see that like every 3 months there's somebody that comes in and goes, "Hey guys, it seems like this dude RevNac's pretty cool. What happened?"
Oh
I'm
yeah, he's like, yeah, like,
interesting.
hey guys, thoughts on RevNac? I heard he's got a big cock. It's like, oh, okay. Thanks, RevNac.
Oh, man.
No, so we'll have to do like a channel. We'll have to do like a drama thing. We'll have to arrange.
Drama.
Yeah, that's the next episode, I guess. We'll have to arrange a time for the three of us to get together again to be
Call
like,
it Drama Llama. So like you have the Sun Bros, the bison is the mascot, and then for your drama channel you have the llama from the like South American maps.
Drama Llama.
Drama Llama.
Drama Llama,
Drama
but
Llama.
except what we do is that it's oxen gathering on a hacienda.
Yeah.
And it's just you just totally missed it. It's like it's not llamas on the
Wait,
Inca
what?
community. Yeah, it's not llamas on the Inca community
Oh,
plaza.
shit.
It is just cattle on the
Sorry,
hacienda.
I zoned out there for a second and I went in to agree with whatever you said.
You're like, yeah, oh yeah, totally makes sense. It's totally different. No, I would love interjection in prison.
That is the thing that people should respond to in the comments. Do you want a specific drama podcast episode? And then who do you want on it? Do you want Shake and
Len is
Lionheart,
fighting
or-
for Len is fighting for. I'm making all this up. I'm making all this up, by the way. So I don't want anybody to be. Oh, is that true? But Len fought and died for Russia in Ukraine. Who else is there? Lionheart is actually French, not British, and he's pretending the whole time. He's faking the accent the whole time.
Lionheart actually loves America.
Yeah,
He does.
and then, yeah, and Madonna's Danish. Madonna's actually from Denmark. He's actually from Denmark, and then he immigrated, and now he's
Madonna plays auto mains on a Smurf.
Madonna is actually level 250 home city on Ottomans.
Yo, we should call out everyone who smurfs. Just like name and shame. Just
Dude,
like,
People
I'm
defend
sorry,
it.
I don't mean to extend like the podcast beyond what the time was supposed to be, but
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't like.
me neither.
No, I don't.
I don't know, man. Imaginary internet points. They hold a lot of weight for some
Yeah,
people.
people go crazy, man. It's like all the time. Like Vindian was like it's just on the stupid Smurf, and then who else is like, oh yeah, well, there's a bunch of people in the Sunbros Discord who defend Smurfing it. Like the one guy is like, oh, like
it just makes it really hard to like have, I don't know, like lore for the community.
Yeah,
because there's just no names to get behind.
Yeah, no,
like, That's
like
one
every,
thing about
every
Legacy that was
Lionheart video
great.
nowadays is like somebody, he's like starting. Oh, okay, so we think this is Osteo, but his name is Osteo's mom.
Yeah.
But it might actually be Callan, who's pretending to be Osteo. And it's like, dude. Like,
yeah, this is
it's
ridiculous.
I gotta say, shout out to Karim, because I know people hate him for auto-laming, but that dude has no shame. Like, he says, yeah, I'm an auto-botter, and I don't friggin' care, and I don't change my name. Yeah. So, like, I don't know. It's to me, it's just like, it's one of those minor inconveniences that is really only applicable to casters, and I don't want to make it like, oh, listen to the casters cry about their problems, but I mean, if you want people to build a community, like, give them names to get behind, like Azank, Maido, H2O, you know, Black Star, Lord Raphael, not, oh, this is Callan's username this week, you know?
No, I mean, it applies to the rest of the community too, because you feel gatekept, because there are people who will then Smurf, and then you end up losing a few games, you know, a couple games, whatever, and then you realize you're like,
oh, well, that's why I tell people that the ranked ladder doesn't mean anything, because, I mean, there are people that, like, take Revnak, for example. He owns how many accounts in the top 10 that should be one? Like, yeah. It's why when, you know, I used to record videos, I used to always say, like, oh, they're this rank on the ladder, like, to try to impress my viewers, and now I just don't say their rank because it doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah, I'm against. I've heard arguments that say, well, they bought the game again, so therefore they have the right to Smurf because they paid extra money for it. Like, okay.
Yeah, thanks for giving World's Edge more money.
Well, I mean, okay, I mean, paying for something, like, you end up in a really slippery slope when we start saying paying for something gives you the right to it.
No, full censorship. Full censorship.
Pay to win.
You're on a list.
Yo. Okay. We are at the hour 30 mark, so I'm gonna stop it there. It's very, we obviously, that was a bonus thing for everybody to listen to as we talked about future ESOC patch, and then it got into favorite food. So you all know Madonna and Mr. V's favorite food now, and we talked about a little bit of drama, and we'll probably come back to talk more drama. But anyway, super fun. Thank you guys so much for joining.
To be clear,
yeah.
I just want to say this real quick. To be clear, do whatever you want. You bought the game. I'm being very facetious right now, but it's whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I appreciate you guys coming on the podcast, and I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Feel free to comment if you do have ideas for the future of the game. I guess feel free to comment. I will not stop you. Tell us what you think about a future ESOC patch. And again, I hate saying it, but, you know, liking helps, subscribing helps. We really appreciate it, guys. And we are back in full swing of things. So we hope you enjoy this episode of the Age of Empires 3 podcast, the only Age of Empires 3 podcast. And we will see you in the next one.